the most crucial part of these inflation numbers is food inflation, which currently is upwards 39%. The food inflation is the chief driver of the headline inflation. There has to be an intentional, a deliberate strategy by the federal government through the Ministry of Finance to be able to impact on agriculture. The Nigerian inflation currently stands at about 34%. That is the headline inflation. Headline inflation includes inflation from energy, inflation from food, inflation from every other aspect that the National Bureau of Statistics use as measures. But the most crucial part of these inflation numbers is food inflation, which currently is upwards 39%. Why is food inflation this high when the core inflation, the headline inflation is 34%? What it simply means is that the food inflation is the chief driver of the headline inflation. So why do we have food inflation in a country that boasts of arable lands as big as some countries of the world? Why do we have food inflation at 39% when all the grasses are lush? All the places you go from Lagos to Benin, on your right and to your left, you see places that can be farmed. Why do we have inflation going on 39–40%? It is very, very simple. So in an economy, you have two aspects of two engines that can be used by the government to stimulate the economy and then fight inflation. We call them the monetary policies, and then we call them the fiscal policies. So the monetary policies are controlled, or they give the CBN the instrument to be able to fight inflation. However, the inflation that monetary policies can fight is simply a demand pull inflation. So what that means is that when there is so much money in the economy chasing very few goods, that's what the basic economists will call inflation. So that is, you use the monetary instruments to fight them. What you just need to do is you contract, you withdraw some form of money in circulation through some contractionary policies. However, the one that affects us the most in this country, that is pushing the inflation to the 40% mark, is food inflation. Food inflation would have been checked by fiscal policy. The fiscal policy is under the control of the Ministry of Finance. So what it means is that there has to be an intentional, a deliberate strategy by the federal government through the Ministry of Finance to be able to impact on agriculture. Now, what we are having in this country is not demand pull inflation. What we are having is cost push inflation. So that cost push inflation means that there is a general rise in the prices of agricultural products, not because there is so much money chasing them, but because there seems not to be a policy around agriculture. So it's the reason why we at C&H Farms will be having a lot of educational material on how to fight food inflation. Just to give a snippet of what we'll be unveiling on this platform, one of the things we all know is insecurity. Insecurity because the farmers, they have to leave their farms because they are getting killed. We are quite fortunate in the southwest here. Of course, because of insecurity too, we can't mention where we are farming. But in the southwest here, not as bad as what you have in the core north. And like you know, agriculture, or the food that we eat in the country, predominantly is grown in the north. That means that what the entire country feeds on, 80% of it comes from the north. The north currently is ravaged by banditry, by Boko Haram. Farmers have left their farms for IDP camps. So when they are in IDP camps, there's no way they can grow tomatoes for us. There's no way they can grow bell peppers for us. There's no way they will grow rice for us. And that's why we are having this situation. But beyond insecurity, we also have the situation of very expensive funding. So because there are no clear-cut funding arrangement for agriculture, what we can call subsidy for agriculture, the average farmer can no longer buy inputs. We started this year with feed costs in the realm of 12,000 naira. Feed is currently 24,000. That's 100%. And just in 2024, very few farmers will be able to continue to grow for the economy. So when you have farms shutting down because of cost of inputs, what you're having is an ecosystem that is shrinking. An ecosystem that is shrinking, meaning that if you had 10 farmers growing 1 hectare of tomatoes and 10 tons of tomatoes, and you have half of them leave, now the economy now has 5 tons. That 5 tons can no longer feed an ever-growing population. Nigeria is over 250 million. It's not as if we are reducing. So if the population is expanding, agricultural practices has to be expanding to avoid any form of food inflation. So those are the 2 major reasons why you're having this food inflation. The chief amongst them being insecurity, then the second one being a very expensive way to accessing funds for agriculture. All the commercial banks, they don't touch agriculture, not even with a long pole. They don't touch because of the risk involved in agricultural practices. They don't want to do that. Our commercial banks, all our banks, they are almost like a riskless bank. So the only people who want to, the only institutions who will fall back on as farms, they will be the Bank of Industry, the development banks, who unfortunately also have to go through commercial banks, who will become obligors. And they don't want to be obligors that will be liable to in the event of a default. So it's just a chain of misfortune for a farmer in the country at the moment. So it's the reason why we will continue, unfortunately, to have a steep rise in inflation in the country. Is it going to? Yeah, it has decelerated in the last 1 month, but it is just shortly because of the harvest season. We are currently harvesting. It's a natural harvest period. So it looks as if there is now food. No, there isn't food. It's just harvest. And harvest happens between the period of August, September. October, we are back to square one. Inflation may even rise as high as 50%. That's how bad it is, because the fundamental issues, which is the security situation and the funding mechanism of agriculture or farmers or farms, has not been addressed by the fiscal policy. Thank you again for watching this video.